You know what's really fun? Asking someone for some feedback and then realizing everybody's got an opinion. If you're tired of the old cookie cutter marketing advice and want to take your personal brand to the next level with bold, actionable strategies that truly reflect you, you're in the right place. Let's untangle your marketing mayhem with Zoe, the video confidence coach, on the Unboring Your Brand podcast. Unboring Your Brand was recorded on Wadawurrung land. And yes, you might be saying that some of those opinions are gold, but most of the time some of those opinions are garbage. I'm saying that with love, by the way. So some of it may sound helpful in the moment, but especially depending on who you get this feedback from, can send you on an existential spiral that will take days to recover. So let's go through a quick mental checklist that you can keep in mind when asking someone for feedback and allow you to keep your mind and your mojo intact. I'm pausing a lot this episode. This Unboring Your Brand question and conversation has come from Kylie. So hello, Kylie. It was good. It was awesome to have a chat with you. Make sure you follow up my emails and we'll have another chat later on. But these are like one of many questions that we had during our disco call. So make sure you check out the link in the description to check out your own disco call where you can have conversations like this, but all directed about you and your focus. So also, quick reminder that if you are listening to the podcast, you can also watch my face and my expressions on YouTube and the website vcc.training/podcast. And you can also, if you are watching this podcast, you can also listen to it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts under Unboring Your Brand podcast. Now, let's begin with section 1. So, with this little mental checklist that you're creating in your head, now, of course, it's another thing to think about, but checking out the show notes below, I'll give you a quick thing that you can copy and paste, put in your second brain, put in your diary, put in your calendar. Again, somewhere where you can find it later when it comes to thinking about your feedback and when you're asking for it. Here is what you need to keep in mind. So, first off, check your sources. So, when you are asking for feedback, you are in a position where you want to either change what you are doing regarding your personal brand or your content strategy or your brand or the way that you're marketing yourself, the way that you're putting your message out there for your audience to take on board and make changes for themselves. Or make changes for themselves by hiring you, hopefully. And you're asking for feedback, usually from people that you have access to. So this feedback can be asking your audience, but this feedback could also be asking your friends and family. It could be asking other peers in your industry, other collaborators, other competitors. Yes, I have talked about on the podcast about how those two can definitely be the same thing. And I still wholeheartedly believe that. But also, in the moment, especially when you get subpar feedback, it can definitely feel different. So when it comes to checking your source, who exactly are you giving this power? Because again, that's what we're doing here. We are giving them the power to give us both critiques, but also a little bit of a way of sugarcoating how we're feeling. We want a little bit of reassurance with our feedback, but we also want to know what we can change and what we can update. Like I have business mentors that I regularly reach out to for sessions, but also just regular chats or just getting their feedback on something. And when you're running a business and when you're running a brand, you can forget things. I forget things all the time. And when I am so fixated on a project or fixated on getting a certain outcome for someone, I can kind of miss the forest from the trees and not really do my basic fundamentals. So having someone outside of your control, outside of your remit, outside of your little comfort bubble can be useful in those situations. but thinking about how it helps you and how it serves you in your personal brand context, because that's where we are, because you're listening to the Unboring Your Brand podcast. Here we are. So in the purview and in the permit of your personal brand, who are you asking feedback from? Ideally, it would be your clients, your current clients, or your potential clients, or maybe even your past clients, people that you have worked with or are about to work with. Maybe even a mentor, someone who understands both sides of what's going on, not just the message that you're putting out there to help the people that you want to help, but also they understand the back end of what's going on, not just in your mind and your mindset, but also how you run your business and the processes and maybe even the money that's going on. Asking feedback from that type of source has a bit more weight and a bit more gravitas to then a stranger on the internet making comments about your weight when you ask them for feedback about your brand or message. I'm not naming names. Or is your feedback coming from, and the source of this feedback, coming from your cousin Barry who has never run a business but has thoughts of running a business? Yes, we have plenty of those in our lives. When it comes to these people, and I'm not saying that you should forego Barry or forego any of those people that may not have the experience that you need to get feedback, because having that honest truth from someone who couldn't give less of a shit about what you were working on can be quite eye-opening. And being able to prioritize that feedback from people who are in your industry, who understand your goals and your audience, may be slightly higher up in your, when you've got all this feedback swirling in your head, the decisions that you make, the actions that you take. Where someone like Barry, yes, they've got cool, honest, raw thoughts, but they also feel like they know everything, and everything that they say they feel is gospel. You may put that slightly lower on the totem pole. No, that is the wrong thing to say there. You might put it slightly lower on your priority list of things to action when they say it. So, a little rule of thumb that I like to put in for my own point is, if you wouldn't swap lives with them, don't build your personal brand off their advice. I'll say that again for those in the back. When asking for feedback, if you wouldn't swap your life with theirs, do not build your personal brand off their advice. Yeah. The second thing to think about when it comes to seeking out feedback from people is filtering it through your own values. So when you are asking for feedback, you're asking for people's positioning, you're asking for people's thoughts, but also that comes with their set of values and what they think is your priority and what they believe that you should be doing with your life and with your choices. But when it comes to those actions that they recommend for you to take, and that's what they're going to be at the end of the day, they're going to be actions and tasks to improve, update, change, mold, change whatever you're doing. Maybe it's an MVP, so a minimum viable product. That is usually the fastest, easiest, quickest, dirtiest thing that you can get out there to the public to get feedback from all of these sources that we're discussing, that you can then change to fit the people who actually need your help. That is a key factor here, and that's why sources are important. The people who actually are going to benefit from what you do. And then the second thing is to filter those through your own values. The feedback that aligns with your vision for what you want your personal brand to do, what you want your business to do, what you want to accomplish in the world. And if these actions, these tasks, these changes are asking you to be something or someone that you're not, it's got to be a no. And because you're building a personal brand, not a costume, it has to reflect these internal values that you have. Even though a personal brand is that professional outward side of you, the message that you're putting out there to the world, it is still a, aspect of you. So if the feedback that you're getting feels a bit icky, I want you to trust that feeling. And It may sit in your stomach like, a bit of dodgy takeaway from last night. I am definitely feeling that at the moment. I want you to take that opportunity to actually think about, does this feedback align with my values? A good example I have for you is recently I had a chat with some lovely people who run a mentoring conglomerate. It was a bit hard to kind of get a hold of them in the sense of what they were actually doing. But turns out they were providing mentoring services for people who did products, specifically consumable products, and wide world distribution of consumable products. Now, as you can imagine, Zoe, the video confidence coach, I provide digital products and services. I have no need for products just yet. Of course, except for my product, which is a postcard of the camera color corrector card. That's a product, but that's a piece of cardboard that I postcard to people because I love them. I have no need for consumables. And I had to make it clear, and also the way that they were speaking. Now, again, I'm not saying anything against you. It was more building an empire, needing to, the Uberification, the Airbnb-ification, the move fast, break things type mentality, where personally, that does not align with my values. And within the call, I made it quite clear. Obviously, there's a lot of things that went right with the call, but I made it quite clear that I have no interest in building a empire and then selling it off to the highest bidder. Some people want that. Some people want to build their life like that, and that's okay. That is not for me, though. And I had to be very clear. So the feedback that they were giving me, especially when they started going on about how, you as a coach, you've only got limited time, you've only got limited things that you can offer people. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I've got limited availability. That's just the part of being human. I want to help and serve as many people as I can, which is why I do live streams, podcasts, and many other methods to be able to help as many people as I can, speak at events, workshops, all that good things. But I want to help and serve people, which in turn usually means some one-on-one attention. And I'm okay with that. That is my values, and I'm okay with that. I don't need to build empire. So in that, the feedback that I got from them, I put through that filter of my values, but also checking my sources. The third thing that I want you to keep in mind when you're asking for feedback is spotting patterns. If one person says either in a comment on a Instagram video or maybe a YouTube video, and this can be a complete stranger, by the way, or maybe someone you know, they may say, hey, your videos are too casual, or you mumble too much, or I don't understand you. Sure. Give them, reply to them, always engagement. Thank you for reaching out. But if 10 people say, hey, you're mumbling, or if 10 people say, hey, I like the way that you clearly explain things, you just might need to make sure you punctuate your ends of your sentences, that is a pattern because you've got more people and you've got more results. It may be across different platforms, but it helps you see the patterns of multiple people saying the same thing. So follow your vibe, follow your gut on that front when it comes to seeing multiple people saying the same thing. And it may not be something you agree with. It may not be something that you trust the source, or maybe something that you, again, may not filter through your values. But if a lot of people on different platforms and different areas of your business or the different services that you're providing say the same thing, might be a thing that you might need to look into and change. Sometimes that happens. And sometimes you can be so stubborn that you don't want to admit it. Like somebody I know. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that's me. But I do my best to listen to my audience, listen to you, and do my best to make changes where need be. And I've got a note here to say, look for trends in what people are saying, not just saying to you, mind you. Feedback can be very broad, and sometimes, especially with your customer avatar or your audience that you're trying to get people on board with, they may not necessarily be very talkative. They may not be the type of people to fill in surveys or be very direct when communicating with you. So trying to pick up on signals that are out there in the communities that you are a part of, specifically niched communities that you are a part of, either online or in person, trying to pick up those trends. There may not be feedback directed at you, but if you can pick up those patterns and start implementing that into the way that you communicate, it can help you be clearer, get the point across, maybe get people to take an action, which results in you getting money. Because you don't necessarily have to be the loudest voice in the room to make a change. And if it's a one-off comment, it's okay. It's okay. If you're receiving that one-off comment a lot, then it's sometimes going to happen. And especially when you are starting out, when you're not getting a lot of traction. And I'm not saying that you're always going to get you're going to grow a $1 million follow account, because to be honest, followers aren't really meaning much in our current algorithmic AI algorithmic state. It's not real. It's not necessarily worrying about followers, people who are subscribing to your content, because that actually doesn't happen as much anymore. It's mainly about your engagement rate, about each individual piece of content that you put out, that people are responding to it with watching it all the way through. Are they saving it? Are they sharing it with someone else? Are they commenting on it? Those are the type of factors that you really need to focus on. And if it's just one comment mentioning something minute about yourself, and you're mainly focusing on it because you believe that about yourself, that's okay. Step out, put your phone down. Breathe for a second. But if it's something that you don't care about, you're just going to have it fade into the background. And it's not going to be controlling your life as much as some other aspects of what we do can do. The next point. When it comes to your feedback, we have checked the source of where that feedback is coming from. We've filtered it through your personal values of your personal brand, but also your values as a human being. You can now spot patterns. If more than one person is saying it in your communities, or one person is saying it to you, then it's probably something that you might need to change, even if it's something that you don't particularly appreciate. That's okay. You can slowly make changes. The next thing that I want you to think about, or keep in your mental checklist, is: are these people your audience, your ride or die, your super fans, or are they just passing through? When it comes to feedback, especially from someone outside of your niche or outside of the people that you are there to help and to serve, it may not be as relevant. Now, of course, that goes back to your sources, but all right, so an example is receiving a comment on a post. For example, if you are talking about something to do with gardening and you receive a opinion post from someone who says they're a lawyer, doesn't mean that they are, but someone who says they're a lawyer, and they have an opinion on the way that you plant your petunias, you can appreciate the comment, maybe even reply with a comment and say thank you, but that may not be your core demo, and that is okay. Again, we're going back to the sources, but if you actually keep the focus on the people that you are there to help, and you may have multiple customer avatars, you may have a very large group of people that you help, which again, knowing who those people are is incredibly helpful, which is why check out my tool, WTF is your niche. It's a very useful tool that I put a lot of people through. You spend 20 minutes and you get a really clear idea of who your target audience is that you can make decisions about. Highly recommend. In those particular moments, when thinking about the source of that feedback, you need to think about, are those people there for the long run? Are they actually going to stick around to see the changes that you're enacting from the feedback that they give you? Or are they coming in, vomiting their opinion up, going, and then leaving? Because that happens a lot, especially on the internet, and especially from white men. I do not say that with love. But people who believe they are always right are going to make sure that you feel like you're always wrong. So in those moments, think about where the source of this feedback is coming from. Did you ask for it? Filtering it through your own values and spotting the patterns And then thinking about, is this feedback coming from someone who isn't necessarily even a super fan, but someone who is going to stick around to see the changes that you are going to make from their feedback? Or are they coming, vomiting up their feedback and then leaving? Because building a brand is not for everyone, but knowing who you're building it for and doing it the right way is a good use of your time. And a good use for, once you've asked for feedback, to actually utilize that feedback correctly and take actions and make changes from it. And the last thing I want to check in with you regarding this mental checklist, again, the details can be found in the description, where I will have a show notes page, which will have a nice breakdown for this so that you can copy and paste and put it wherever you need to. The last thing that I want to mention, again, with this little mental checklist, now of course I've gone into great detail because I want to help you, but in the meantime, with this feedback is ultimately, does this feedback help you grow or does it shrink you? Does this feedback that you are asking for help you grow or does it shrink you? Because constructive feedback isn't presented in a certain way, even though it can be. It's not given a shit sandwich, which is a compliment thing, a harsh thing, and then a compliment again. I like to do that sometimes when I'm giving constructive feedback to someone who I know is very sensitive at that moment. Not all the time, of course, but sometimes they're a bit sensitive in that moment. You might need to compliment and put in a bit of a shit sandwich for them. But constructive feedback, actively putting context around why you're giving feedback, which is the big ding 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 here, is it going to push you to improve? Are you going to feel empowered by the feedback and the constructive feedback that you are given? Even if it hurts or stings a bit, it's going to be useful. But if the feedback is telling you that you're a tall poppy and we need to cut you down, or that you're getting too big for your britches, sit down, is that stuff you really want to be hearing? Is that stuff you need to be hearing? Because especially a lot of the people that I work with are people who have heard this their entire lives. No, I do not need to sit down, Janice. I need to help the people that I need to help. I need to swing my arms around. I need to wear crazy colors and makeup because I want to be seen by the people that I need to help because they need my help. And I don't need you trying to squish me down because it benefits you. And if this constructive criticism makes you, if this constructive criticism, because again, it has to reach that bar first, if it makes you want to delete your accounts and live in the bush, then you don't need to take it on board. Yes, some constructive criticism may bruise your ego. It's gonna hurt, but that's okay. Bad feedback bruises your energy, while good feedback can just bruise your ego. And that thing bounces back easily. It's not a bone, it's a muscle. So going back over everything we've talked about today, when you are looking for feedback, ask, check the source. Who is this coming from? Filter this feedback and actions, very importantly the actions, through your own values. Spot the patterns. Are you finding it from more and more people? Again, checking that source and making sure that the filtering the values through that. Is the audience there to see the change that they are asking for? Or are they just passing through? And ultimately, does this feedback help you grow or shrink you down? Because at the end of the day, is this feedback helping you or hindering you? And to wrap up today, and thank you everyone who has stood by this podcast today, feedback is ultimately a tool. It's not a rule, it's a thing that you ask to improve yourself, improve the things that you're creating to better help the people that you want to serve. So you don't have to implement every piece of feedback that you ever get. You are not an itty-bitty-titty committee. You not work for the council. And if you do, my hat's off to you. You have a very hard job. you don't have to implement everything. You can be thankful for the feedback. You can be grateful for the feedback. But you don't need to live in the feedback. And once you learn to trust your gut, you can ultimately feel smarter, but you are growing with experience. And growing a personal brand or doing video marketing is going to require some experience. Thank you for listening to the Unboring Your Brand podcast. Make sure to rate this episode 5 stars, or the podcast in general, I wouldn't mind. Or if you don't rate the podcast, that's fine. I want you to share this with someone who has been struggling with feedback. I want you to share this with a business bestie who's been struggling with maybe the feedback that you're giving them, or maybe that they're just struggling with asking for feedback. Hopefully this episode makes it easier and less scary to ask for that feedback now. See you next time, next week especially. We've got a doozy for you. Thank you for listening or watching Unboring Your Brand. You can find detailed show notes with tools, offers, and episode transcriptions. Just click the first link in the description or go to vcc.training/podcast. Get involved and ask me anything about personal branding, video strategy, or just a friendly small business chat via my email, g'day@vcc.training. That is gday@vcc.training. The Video Confidence Coach would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I record my podcast. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Look forward to me chatting at you next week, superstars.